In the healing spirit, a portion of my book sales will be donated to an organization that trains therapy dogs for soldiers with post-traumatic stress disorder. Right now, I'm going to read a chapter from my book. This chapter is called A Patch of Darkness. In this chapter, the main character, Victoria, attempts to comfort a boy who has been sexually abused. The child's name is Nikki, his mother is Vitalia, and Victoria has the ability to feel others' pain. Chapter 36, A Patch of Darkness. Nikki sat on the bed, hugging his knees and staring at his feet. Vitalia sat in a chair beside the bed. Her gaze was aimed in Nikki's direction, but her eyes were so lost and empty. Who knows what she was really saying? Ayana stood beside Vitalia, with her hand upon her shoulder and her grief-stricken eyes fixed on her hurt friends. I was the first to walk in. Vitalia? She slowly looked up. A fragile smile faded onto her corpse-like face. She whispered, "Victoria." Then she stood and wrapped her arms around me in a weak hug. I held her tight. The worst pain I have ever felt in anyone shredded through my arm. Fury, betrayal, guilt, loss. Loss? The loss of her child's innocence. The knowledge that her child, at 5 years of age, has already been exposed to the horrors of the dark side of this world. Horrors she did not protect him from. I fought my tears. "It is just so horrible," she breathed. I stroked her hair. "I know. But it'll be okay. We'll help both of you through this." She nodded. Jason put his hand on her shoulder. I released her. She collapsed into Jason's arms. Jason didn't say a word. He didn't have to. He just held her as she lost all control and hopelessly sobbed. Adam wrapped his arms around both of them. Cassie rubbed Vitalia's back as she choked down her own tears. Ayana rested her hand on Vitalia's shoulder and whispered, "Vitalia, Nikki." I turned to Nikki, who had begun rocking back and forth. Then I turned to his weeping mother, who was now straining to soften her sobs. "Let her cry," I said. "If you do not want Nikki to see, you may go into the next room. I will stay with him. I will not harm him," I assured her. "You just look like you need to fall apart right now, and if you do..." Vitalia nodded. "Okay," I breathed. Jason silently led Vitalia by the hand. My debating siblings looked from Vitalia to Nikki. I spoke, "Go with her. I wish to be alone with him." With understanding nods, my siblings followed Vitalia and Jason out the door. Ayana quietly closed the door behind them. I turned to Nikki and asked, "What happened, sweetheart?" He sat silently rocking and staring into space. I knelt beside the bed. I barely touched his shoulder. He whimpered and jerked away. A wave of pain shook me, but I concealed my hurt to the best of my abilities. "Nikki, sweetie, I'm not going to hurt you. I only want to help you." Silent tears began rolling down his precious cheeks. "Nikki, you can talk to me," I coaxed as I unconsciously touched his hair. He jerked away, choking on his tears. "Nikki," I exhaled, "you know me. I am your friend. You can trust me." I held up my arms. He glanced at me, then back at his feet. "Don't be scared," I softly spoke. "You know I'm not going to hurt you." He looked into my eyes. Then he studied my arms. He slowly put his trembling hand on my shoulder. His shaking calmed as he carefully wrapped his little arms around my neck in a hesitant hug. I held him close as he slowly relaxed. His pain twisted up my arm. Hurt, confusion, terror, emptiness. They were all emotions no child should feel. What could I possibly say or do to help initiate the healing process? Is that even what he needed me to do? Did he need me to help him heal? Or did he need me to simply ease the ache? Did he need me to simply mask the pain until he was ready to face it? I contemplated all of this in silence. Nikki was the first of us to speak. "You're not saying anything." I'm trying to think of something to say," I replied. "You always have something to say, I know. Why don't you have something to say now?" "Because I want to think about what I want to say to you before I say it." I don't want to rattle off a bunch of cliches just to make myself feel better. I want to tell you something that will actually help you, but I'm not sure what that is. What's a cliche? A cliche is a phrase that was originally meant to be comforting, but now it is said so often that it's just annoying. Oh, well, don't tell me one of those. I won't. But you know what I can tell you? What? That you're going to be okay. I think that's one of those cliche thingies. Only because you didn't let me finish. You're going to be okay, because while this is difficult for you now, what makes it so difficult is not understanding what happened to you. But there will come a day when you will understand what happened. And on that day, all the memories will come rushing back to you. You will relive every detail of that horrible day over and over until you find the strength to confront what happened to you. And when you do, you will give all the pain and all the trauma permission to do its worst. All the pain you repressed for fear of what it could do to you, you will finally unleash it, and you will see what it can do to you. You will allow it to run rampant within you, eating away at your heart and soul until nothing is left. And after you have fully felt it, after you have allowed the pain to do its absolute worst, you will no longer fear it. And because we can only be enslaved by what we fear, it will no longer control you, and you will finally be able to let it go. This isn't making me feel better. You're just scaring me. I'm telling you the truth. You are young, but now you have seen and experienced the lowest, darkest side of humankind. And so now simple cliches will never satisfy you. You need to hear the truth. But not all the truth is scary. It has scary moments, but you learn how to work through them. Life has its ways of throwing us into scary, dark places. Why would life do that? To show us how strong we are, by showing us that when we find ourselves in a dark place, we always find a way out. And once you find your way out of one of those patches of darkness, the light looks a million times brighter. Your words are pretty. Thank you. But the pretty is only a bonus. First and foremost, these words are meant to help you. Are they helping you? I think so. A little. And I'll keep talking until I find the words that help a lot. One thing about trauma, especially trauma of this nature, is you have to know where the blame belongs. I know it can be tempting to try to be a hero and feel responsible for all the bad things in the world. It's so tempting to tell yourself that in a moment of danger, you should have been the hero. You should have done something amazing. You should have done something impossible, but you didn't. Tears rolled down his cheeks. His arms were turned around my neck. I kissed his cheek and held him tight. His pain intensified. I attempted to smooth my trembling voice before I continued. And I know you're running that moment through your head right now, wondering where you went wrong, but you didn't. You didn't do anything wrong. He did. His hug tightened. I shrugged. So you were in a bad situation, and you didn't unleash any amazing fighting moves or supernatural powers, but the guard should not have forced you into a bad situation in the first place. And while your mind may be able to stage a well-thought-out reenactment, in which case you take down that horrible man with ease, in the moment you froze, and you can never change that. And I know that's hard to accept, but it's hard to accept because you will tend to forget how you felt in that moment. The panic, the confusion, the sheer terror. You didn't have any idea of what was happening until it was over. The only way you could have been prepared is if you knew what was coming. And even if you did, even if he did this 1,000 more times, Nikki whimpered, which he won't. I mean this strictly hypothetically. If this happened 1,000 more times, the horror of knowing that someone could be twisted enough to want to hurt you like this would be enough to paralyze you each and every time. So don't beat yourself up about it. How you reacted in the moment doesn't show how brave you are. It's how you react afterwards. Awesome fighting moves are cool, but having the courage to hold your head up high, even after being abused and violated and traumatized, now that's bravery. And that's what you have. And that's why you're going to survive this. Does any of this make sense to you? With his face still buried in my shoulder, he nodded. Good. Do you want me to keep talking? He nodded. I breathed, okay. I took a moment to turn my thoughts over in my mind, solidifying them before I spoke them. I thought of Dad and his river and its rocks. I know it's hard to make sense of these kinds of things, I spoke. I know it's hard to understand why this happened. But maybe this happened for reasons that you don't understand yet. Maybe it is important for you to know and understand this kind of trauma now, so that you can help others later. Or maybe this happened for no other reason than to give you something to look back on and say, look what I survived. If you can survive this, you can survive anything. Because everything that he did to you and everything that you're feeling right now is so incredibly horrible that it makes every other hardship in the world look not so bad. And every wonderful thing in the world look a million times more wonderful. Or maybe you'll grow up to be successful and talented and adored worldwide. And hearing the story of how you overcame this physical violation and emotional torture to go on to live an amazing life will inspire complete strangers. Inspire? What does inspire mean? I thought for a moment, then answered. Inspire means to motivate people, to encourage them to live incredible lives by living an incredible life yourself. His face crinkled. I took his tiny hands in mine. His pain twisted up my arm. It was not as strong this time. It had begun to subside, drifting away from his surface and into a deep place within him, where it would remain until he was ready to confront it. I looked into his eyes and spoke. To inspire means to show every person in the world what you can do and dare them to do better. Oh, I can do that? Uh-huh. Everyone can. But it takes people like you, I poked his chest, people with guts, to actually do it. Oh. See, sweetheart, one way or another, something good will come out of this. Why? I stared into the big brown eyes that relied on me to help them understand their world. I decided to answer his question honestly, because if it doesn't, my entire understanding of life is wrong. Are you wrong? I don't think I am. But I guess we'll find out. He studied my face as he thought very intently about something. Then a yawn rolled out of his mouth. Are you tired? I asked him. He nodded. Okay. I stood up and began pulling the blankets on his bed back. Come on, I'll tuck you in. He crawled to where the sheet was exposed and curled up into the position he wished to sleep in. I pulled the blankets over him, tucked them under the edges of him, and kissed his cheek. Good night, sweetheart. Good night, he yawned. Aunt Victoria. I froze. What did you call me? Aunt Victoria. Is that okay? Yes. A smile spread across my face. Yes, that's okay. That's more than okay. That's wonderful. I paused my babbling to behold Nikki's adorable face and to announce, you need another goodnight kiss. I kissed my nephew's chubby little cheek. And that's the end of the chapter. Okay. And my book's for sale at the booth right up here by the entrance. And if you buy a book, I'll sign it for you.